I mean, I know it's a really handsome look.
I want to do a selfie style.
Remember during the midst of the pandemic when we were all, you know, I mean, I know it's a really handsome look.
And the guys who didn't show up, Bob Hyde showed up. Did you see that at all? Well, it's about this couple, the lady from Nigeria, the husband's here. Long story short, whenever the lady tries to Zoom with her mom in Nigeria, it's never quite there. And the thing's like on her hair. It's long, you have to twist the screen around, and then it just gets worse. So it's just, it's pretty cool.
Just waiting for Vicky then, right?
Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to promote Vicky as a panelist, and she will.
I'm sorry, can I remind everyone that any vote should be a roll call vote without participating remotely?
Cool.
I appreciate all reminders.
I don't have to speak out of turn, but I thought that would be
Out of turn.
Whenever you're ready, Joe.
Yeah, just 1 minute. I'm going to put this up on the screen. There we go. Vicky, can you hear us?
I can.
Okay, great.
Are all those people already on the meeting?
Correct.
Got my glasses on and I still can't see it. It's too small.
Okay, I think we can start. Call the meeting to order.
And no gavel? Come on. All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7:03 p.m. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, can I get a motion for approval of tonight's agenda, please?
Motion to approve tonight's agenda. Second.
Okay, and roll call vote to approve.
Sean Nicholson, aye.
Dorothy Skelly, aye. Carrie Lawrence, aye.
Bill Desotter, aye.
Eric Brown, aye.
Vicky Ludwigson, aye.
Okay, and the agenda is approved. We'll start with the and our discussion of the post override and the effects of the 2021-22 school year and next steps.
Okay, thank you very much, Carrie. So as everybody around this table knows, that the second Mendon Proposition 2.5 override of yesterday failed 701 to 564. So as we've talked about over the last several school committee meetings, the implications are not just the loss of 803,000, but rather with Mendon's proportional matching share of 1.3 million, which has already been approved by the town of Upton, the implications are $2.1 million shortfall in funding. Keep in mind that, as we've talked about, that represents fairly drastic cuts in program servicing and staffing. As we've discussed in previous school committee meetings, the implications are the reduction of 28.2 FTEs or full-time equivalents. And at current, there's 18 people out on layoff and have been since right before the 1st of June. So we've talked about a lot of pieces as far as the deleterious effects it'll have on all of our students' experience and their education. So I'd like to be able to discuss the next steps of what the school committee has as far as options. So I'd like to share with you, and for any of us that might be watching on the Zoom, I'm just going to do a share screen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share, and you can see this up above, what the statute speaks to. And this is Mass General Law, Section 16B, that kind of specifically speaks to regional school districts and how their funding works, how their budgetary works, because you're dealing with more than one town, obviously, in regional school districts. And specifically, this section, Section 16B, gets into the specifics that if you have a regional school district of 2 or more towns, and there's a disagreement in the funding of an annual school budget, what are the steps that a regional school committee should take? Keep in mind, the general rule of thumb is 2/3 majority of the towns need to approve the budget. However, like many others, we're only 2. Okay, so it pretty much has to be both communities agreeing to fund the assessment. But it is very specific in this statute that talks about what happens if you have a disagreement between the 2 communities as far as fully funding the assessment. So what I'm going to focus here is the section that is highlighted, where it says, in the case of a 2-member regional school district, if the appropriating authority of either member municipality votes not to appropriate the amount so reapportioned and recertify it to it, the provisions of the following paragraph shall apply. Okay, so this is the exact situation that we have in our regional school district with the failed override vote in Mendon. So as you can see, the next paragraph that I've highlighted, the regional school district committee shall convene a special district-wide meeting open to all registered voters in both municipalities, at which the amended regional school district budget proposed by the regional school district committee shall be considered. Such meeting shall be pursuant to warrant under the hands of at least a majority of the regional school district committee, notice of which shall be at least 14 days prior to the date of such meeting. So no, my emphasis, at least verbally, shall convene a special district-wide meeting. Sometimes this is referred to as joint town meeting. And essentially what it would be a meeting open to all registered voters of Mendon-Upton and to consider our budget requests. The next part that I do not have highlighted kind of speaks, and it's great that you're here, Dave. It kind of speaks to the role of each community's boards of selectmen in coming to consensus of who could serve as a moderator for a joint town meeting. No, and I apologize. As you can see right here, the highlighted, again, approval of the regional school district budget shall require the affirmative vote of at least a majority of those present and voting thereon by a counted vote. The regional school district budget so approved shall be apportioned between the member municipalities and paid in them in accordance with the terms of the regional school district agreement. So essentially the long and short of it is, at a joint town meeting, it would be a simple majority of those present to vote up or vote down the school district budget. There's further pieces here that I do feel the need to alert you to, and it's the simple fact that tomorrow, July 1st, is the first day of a new fiscal year. And technically, with this failure, we do not have an approved budget for the regional school district. So we have to go through a process of getting approval of something known as a 1/12 budget through the finance office of the Department of Education. Essentially what that refers to is we will be funded at the same exact amount as last fiscal year of FY21 on a monthly basis. So the funding for all intents and purposes from the state will be level until we get resolution and an approved FY22 budget. So that is the salient piece that I think is really important. I think unfortunately there's a lot of misinformation that is present at times with regard to what must be done as far as the mechanics and what the law specifically says. But I can't stress enough that this is a tool at your disposal. And again, the verb that's being used is shall, when there is a situation of lack of resolution. It would be my recommendation to this committee that you proceed and you come up with a specific date and time for a joint town meeting for the consideration of the FY22 budget. I think probably what makes the most sense is a date in mid-August, possibly something like the week of August 16th, Monday the 16th, to hold this meeting here at Nipmuc Regional High School for the simple reason that that is where we have the largest facilities for consideration, just like the Upton Town meeting was at the front football field or using gymnasium space. So I think that's for the committee's consideration as far as discussion and planning of next steps.
Any discussion?
Sure.
Okay.
So I do think we need to probably get our ducks in order and start to look at what we'd have to do to actually put a date out there for a joint town meeting. It might make sense for us to reconvene a meeting maybe next week as well in order to kind of finally get that maybe agreed to and set. But on tonight, I think it's an important thing to make sure we're all on the same page about having one of these. I mean, I strongly think that this is a point that we've got to put out there while we work a couple of other parallel paths to make sure that we've kind of got those pieces in place and we can get this out to the collective voters between the two towns. Because as we mentioned in that point, this is a decision when one town agrees and one town disagrees that both towns now need to come together to resolve, because that's the primary tool we have at our disposal.
So is there a restriction on the time frame for the joint town meeting? How long do we have to wait?
The only restriction is 14 days after posting and warrant.
So we have some time to figure out what the date might be, is what you're saying, Phil, right?
Yeah, I think it's important for us to kind of look at, what's the timing, where people are right now, how we put this out there, how we get the most active participation so that we can have the collective representation of the people that have been out there and that have approved or disapproved both sides of the vote.
Yep.
I don't know if other people have other thoughts or other questions or other things.
No, I agree with that sentiment.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
I mean, this means that potentially we could be going into the new school year with.
The piece that is challenging in looking at all this, we're in this place now of people that have been laid off are finding other positions. And I can tell you, for example, at Memorial Elementary School, we've lost an educator that is remarkably talented and literally it has gone to a neighboring district. I think there's the pragmatic consideration of knowing now that we're coming up across the busy summer months where people are going away on vacation, they're doing other things. You've got that as a consideration, but also the other simple consideration is that we're starting school on August 30th. And, to be waiting in limbo around positions is really, really challenging. And, you're an educator. I know you've probably involved in a hiring, in the hiring process at some point in your career. Do you necessarily get the best candidates in August, to put it?
In this market, do you even get candidates?
Totally agree.
That's a big problem,
Yeah.
in my view, a very big problem.
Oh, I guess it's a hiring market, meaning, you know what? The people that are out there are going to get snatched up very quickly. 100%. That's why we put this out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's really unfortunate that after a whole year of what these kids have gone through, that now they're looking at going into the fall with so many of the staff missing. It's really unfair to the kids.
So would you be advocating to move earlier in the summer with the joint town
I
meeting?
don't think
or-
we really can.
Right.
Because, like, just from looking at some of the comments on Facebook, like, some people just really haven't been paying attention. Like, some of the comments just really, I was like, where is this coming from?
So I think, and I'll come back to it, I think we have to be respectful about the fact that we're just coming out of the pandemic. And I think many people are looking at taking, these weeks in June and July and
Yeah.
even beginning of August off to decompress, be with their families.
Yeah.
Those are very important things. The students need it, the parents need it, people need it in general. So that's why I guess I'm kind of saying, look at it and trying to give ourselves a little more time, come back maybe next week and make sure, we can lock in on a date, maybe towards the middle or the end of August. That makes sense. And just making sure that we've got kind of our ducks in a row about all the different kind of components we need to line up. I know we've started to talk to Mike Long, our council, but at the same point in time, I think we got to just, look at it. And with it being a holiday weekend as well, I want to just make sure we've got some time to, really digest those pieces that are there.
I think it makes a lot of sense, Phil, right? We're only 23 hours since, we've learned the news and, saw the outcome. And I think, we got pent up demand for vacations, right? People have vacationed in 18 to 24 months. And so people are looking to get away. And so we got to find that fine line of a date that we think we can get a critical mass of people. And at the same time, not push it so far in the fact that, you've got a school year planned for, right? And at some point, you've got to assign homework teachers and classroom teachers, et cetera.
Well, I think even if we had this meeting in 2 weeks, we're still playing catch up.
I
still
don't,
gonna play catch
I don't
up
think we
anyway.
can have it in 2 weeks. Like, I
So
don't know. Like,
that's my point.
there's seems like a lot of education that has to go on also.
Yeah.
Well, and a fair amount of burnout that I think we're
Yeah.
contending with too.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of a little bit of space.
But I think it's important for people to understand that we as a committee are unanimous, I think, what I'm hearing you say, in the fact that, this is the path, this is the next step of the path down the road.
Oh, definitely.
I've heard and I've seen a lot of comments that talk about respect the will of the voters. And ultimately, this is the respect of the will of the voters, because I think it's important to understand there's 2 towns at play here.
Right.
It's not just one town. It's this was a vote on Mendon's ability to provide an override to fund this. That was turned down yesterday. But from the broad perspective, I said, there's also respect of the Upton voters who unanimously at town meeting were very clear about wanting to fund this budget. So I think it's going to be a matter of bringing the people together to allow us to decide in an effective way.
And rather than setting a date for that tonight, you'd like to get some feedback prior to thinking about that.
I think it's a good thing for us to do.
Yeah.
Like Eric said, it's been 23 hours and 20 minutes since polls closed. in Mendon last night. And I think, by doing that, I think it gives us some time to make sure we've thought through all the different components, the angles, the things we need to do in preparation for that.
Hmm.
So, but I think people understand and should understand that we will set a date come next week, and that date will probably be somewhere around the middle to the end of August. I think is what we're thinking,
That makes sense.
barring any significant change or any significant kind of direction. That's my 2 cents.
I think it's very well set, Phil.
Yeah, I think
That's
that's
a very
great.
reasonable response, and given it's raw, it's still new.
I'd like to make a motion of a meeting for the middle of August, date to be determined at the meeting to be planned next week.
Do we do that now?
I think, you can, I think probably the more important thing is to set a date for next week for that meeting, and then to take that specific motion with a specific date rather than something that's kind of nebulous.
Okay, I'll withdraw the motion.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to take that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to make a motion that we will make a motion next. Yeah. So I guess with regard to people's calendars, what makes the most sense for next week?
So I will have to attend.
Zoom?
No.
Do we want to say a week from tonight? The 7th?
Yeah, it works for me.
Yeah, I can do that.
I can do that.
Okay, great, Vicky. Thank you. I don't believe it does.
Nope.
So can I ask, what are some of the considerations in picking that are going to go into picking a date? I mean, obviously, like, we want to maximize the number of families that can attend. We're going to need to provide childcare. So that means, like, students need to be home to be able to provide that. So, but, we need a venue. We need to, like, work with the boards of selectmen who will pick a moderator. But what are some of the other factors that are going to go into, like, picking this date, so we can give that some thought in the interim?
So I think I think we have to work through some of the initial logistics. Chairs, tent, platform, video, similar to what the Upton town meeting was, or even the Mendon town meeting, holding it outside. What kind of venue, what kind of structure, all those kinds of things. What do we have to account for? How do we start to get those things in place so we can make sure we've got the right pieces there? I think it gives us a chance to talk to Ellie and other folks that have coordinated the Upton town meeting, same on the Mendon town meeting, to make sure we've kind of got all the pieces together that we need to do. Because as you know, normally we're not the group putting the warrant out there. We're not the group that is hosting the meeting, so to speak. But in this case, I believe that we are.
We are.
Based on the law, okay.
Based upon the law, yes, we are.
But there's also then a role that the select boards need to play as well, I believe, in selecting a moderator, putting forth names for a moderator, so that we can have that put together appropriately. But I think it's important for people to recognize that we are going down this path, and we're targeting sometime in the towards the end of August. I think it also allows us to spend a week and hear from the constituency that's out there on both sides, to understand, the demand for it, the want and desire for it, and make sure that we're representing the people that we represent in the most effective way.
Yeah.
Hi, could I comment at this point about a few things, if that's all right? Okay. I'm David, town moderator for Upton. Let me make two things very clear as I I start to speak. One, nobody here knew I was coming tonight. Nobody else knew I was coming tonight. Two, I'm not here as a person who is, let's say, wanting to be the person to moderate a special town meeting if it occurs. The reason I'm here is because since I thought that the discussion might happen, and given the fact that it seems pretty clear that the school committee is going to go in that direction, I just did want to offer some insight and some perspective with regard to things to consider when picking a moderator. So if it's okay with you, would you mind if I did that at the
Please.
moment? Okay. So what I'm going to share with you now is my opinion about how I feel about this. My opinion is that you would be better off to have someone moderate the meeting that does not live in either Mendon or Upton. And make that very, very clear. I also want to say that whatever person you get to be a moderator should already be a moderator in some other community. Okay? It shouldn't be someone who's retired. It shouldn't be somebody who has some experience at running meetings and they could put this together. It needs to be a seasoned moderator. Now, what I did do, I took the liberty today, just in case this was going to happen, I contacted the president of the Massachusetts Moderators Association. I have his name and I can share that with you later if you want. He said I could do that. And he would be in a position to speak with the chair or whomever it is that the designate would be. And you could have that discussion about, you know, he could say, well, I got a half a dozen or so moderators who live nearby to consider, et cetera, et cetera. He would be more than willing to have that conversation. And also, just as an aside, the president of the association happens to live in a community that has dealt with regional school districts. So he has a sense for that. So as the conversation's happening, he will be up to speed with regard to that sort of thing, okay? So I don't think there's anything else that I wanted to say. That's pretty much it. So just so that everyone here and everyone who's listening and who will hear this later, I'm not here as somebody who wants to be the moderator. Now, do I feel as though I could moderate the meeting? Yes. Do I feel as if the person from Mendon could? Yes. But that to me isn't the issue. You think we know it's like if it's from one town, then the other town we have and all that other stuff. So where you pick it is up to you guys, the school, some place obviously. So I guess I wanted to say that, and I don't think I missed anything. But if you have any questions for me, I'll be glad to answer. Whatever questions you have.
That's good advice. Thank you for coming in.
Sure.
Yep.
Thank you. I'm happy to take that contact information from you too.
Absolutely. I'll talk with you.
Great. Okay, we can formally open for community comments then at this point.
So if anybody has a community comment that might be watching us through the YouTube webinar, if you just raise your hand, and all I ask is, and you'll be promoted to panelists, and all I ask is you turn your camera on and identify who you are and what town you're from. Okay, the first person it says is Tom Maroli. Yes, yes.
Hello,
Tom, are you there?
I'm Raleigh from Mendon. I'm Mendon's town moderator, and I just wanted to basically reiterate that I'm in agreement with all the points that the Upton town moderator had just made in terms of finding someone who's not necessarily from Mendon or Upton and who is involved with the association. I just wanted to basically second all his comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Just don't tell me I said hi.
Tom, Dave says hi.
Hello.
Okay, here's the next panelist, Melissa.
Good evening. I'm Melissa Morse. I'm a mother to 2 children at Memorial. If you're interested in my perspective on the date for a town meeting as you gather the community input, I'm very concerned that if we wait till the week of the 16th, that we will have extremely limited choices in who we can hire. And when will the children's schedules, my impression is they would have to be made well in advance of that. And how is that possible? I guess. If the budget was approved
That's a great
as
point.
late as August 16th. Oh, it froze.
Thank you, Melissa. Those are all great points. And part of the issue with this dragging out is it leaves invariably kids and families in limbo as far as, you know, making some of those decisions. And again, I've been saying this for quite some time, for months actually, that with regard to educators, with regard to teachers, right now it's a buyer's market. That if you have somebody who's a very talented, but also in a field where there's high demand, think about things like science teachers or special educators and so on. People can get jobs like that very easily. So I think your commentary is totally on point.
Thank you. That's just my push for earlier.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We also have next Michael Krager with his hands up. Michael, you're on.
There we go. So I had a question about the operational budget that would be brought to the joint town meeting. Is there any opening up of a discussion on providing a different town budget at that, or a different operational budget for the school at that meeting?
The way it can work operationally is, yes, there's always room to change it. The general, really simple rule of thumb when it comes to regional school district budgets or any school budget is you can always recertify at the same amount, or you can go down, you can never go up.
I guess my one comment to that is, you know, people who are on Facebook, I'm sure they recognize my name. The one thing that I've learned in my questioning is that the people in Mendon seem to be out for their pound of flesh. I'd like the committee to consider recertifying at level services, and maybe that will bring out more of the Mendon yes vote and have an opportunity to bring more people to the table that are looking for a bit more relief, and see where we're able to go from there.
Understood.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
We also have a Jonah learner, which I'm going to promote to panelist. Jonah, are you there?
Here we go. Okay, yeah. Hi, how's it going? First, I'd like to say I support Mr. Krager's position. And secondly, I'm a Mendon resident. And I also was hoping you could shed some more light on why we're waiting so long to schedule the meeting. Like, why waiting till the end of August, just before as a parent of 2 kids myself. I would think the sooner we have resolution to this, the better. I know there's logistical concerns. I understand there's a 14-day notice period. I get that. But I would think you'd want it as soon as you could get it. No later than absolutely necessary. As you pointed out, teachers could be leaving. Hiring teachers could be difficult. The sooner we can resolve it, the better, right? I know people are burnt out, but the reality, right? What's the thought process behind waiting to the last minute?
I think to reiterate some of the things that were said earlier on, Jonah, was some of the logistical concerns, but also the feeling that this has been a really long year for families. We expect that a lot of families are going to be looking to this summer to take some vacation time to get out of town. We want to be respectful to both communities and provide the best opportunity to get the most involvement as we can from both communities. So having a meeting more towards the middle end of August allows that time for families to take vacation and hopefully be back in town to participate in the process.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Okay, 2 more hands. It's Kevin Valancourt. Kevin, are you there?
I'm here, sorry. I'm here. So Kevin Valancourt from Upton. So we've all seen quite a lot of different information on Facebook. One of the questions I'd have for the committee is, can we have a 1 or 2 page frequently asked questions to kind of identify and clear up a lot of information that's out there? Obviously, you know, we have, I think you said the 28.2 full-time equivalents, but what other programs would be, you know, subject to, you know, elimination or anything else if this does not pass as part of that 2.1 million?
So I would strongly recommend that you go to our school district website, MURSD.org, and go to search and then or discover, and you can find a full page with all of our budget information and all the presentations. But I'll tell you what, Kevin, what I will do this evening is I will email out again to all parents some of the presentations that have been given at all of the school committee meetings over the last couple months or so that have spelt out in explicit terms as a result of that $2.1 million cut, what the implications are.
Okay, yeah, and one of the reasons, you know, kind of ask is, so I have a kindergartner going into, so I probably am not a part of that email yet.
Okay,
and
that makes sense.
And the having something like leading up to a joint town meeting that is something easily digestible for not just parents, but anyone that's a senior that's had, you know, their kids go through the school system, that might be voting, that might need a reminder of what services, you know, they took care of for their kids, that wouldn't just be parents of today of the school committee, right?
That's a great point. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
Okay, we also have somebody who is identifying themselves as Deb. Deb, are you there?
Hi, Doctor. It's actually Jim.
Oh, hi, Jim, bro. How are you?
How are you, sir? Listen, I was just respectfully hoping to revisit that concept around the timing of the Big Tent meeting. You know, we've got a lot of statistics from our corporation, many corporations. The second week in August is just as big a vacation week as every week in July. They're all massive vacation weeks. Vacations have all been booked anyway. I just don't think it should be the driving force. And I think some people have been very eloquent tonight in talking about why we might as well just get this, you know, let's get it done. And I don't think vacation should really be, that matter. I think people will get to this. I think there's a lot of passion right now around this. So as quickly as we can do this, the better. And to your point, every employment agency, it's a buyer's market right now. So filling these positions and getting some stability as fast as we can I would think be the #1 priority.
Great point, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are the Red Sox winning though? I need to know.
They're in delay, but the Mets are up 2-0. So that's what's really
All
important.
right. Mets are my favorite National League team. Awesome. Take care, Jim.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, come on. They're the good New York team. True. Okay, we have a Nicole O'Brien also with her hands up. Nicole, are you there?
Yep. I apparently when you let me in, it put me on mute. Can you see me?
Okay. We do not see you. We see your name though.
Found it. It's not letting me take my video off. Oh, there it goes.
Perfect. Oh, and pretty flowers, daffodils in the background.
Thank you. I'm actually on board with everyone else early. I'm on the exact opposite end of some of the people that spoke. So my last child is going to be a senior in Nipmuc this year. And my concern with waiting with this is the schedules, because I know that the teachers she's had in the past, specifically for AP courses, they had a lot of summer work. And last year we had, obviously with the COVID situation, having not had the time to be able to do this was a real struggle. And I think that if we keep putting off this meeting and putting off these schedules, we're going to be in the same situation that we repeat. And I also don't want to lose a lot of these teachers. They've been really great to my kids over the years, and it makes me very upset.
Okay. Thank you. Great points, Nicole. Thank you. Any other public comments? Oh, 2 more. Suki, are you there?
I am here. Thank you for letting me in. So, I just wanted to echo what some of the other people had said about not waiting too long for this meeting to happen. But I also wanted to say that earlier on in the meeting, you had talked about, making sure that there was plenty childcare and people available. So, people could come to the meeting and have their voice heard and vote. I'm one of the unique people in Upton who, although I'm a green card holder, I'm not a citizen. I can't vote, but I want to help. I want to get the word out there. I want to do what I can do as a citizen. I just wanted you to know that reach out to me and I'll do whatever I can to make sure that the meeting is held and I'm there and doing what I can. Even though I don't have a vote, I still want to help.
Thank you very much, Suki. If you want to send us an email, maybe, so we can get your contact information.
Okay. I can do that. Thank you.
Super. Thank you, Suki. We have next Stacy. Stacy, you there? Hello, Stacy.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you now, yeah.
Great, thank you. So for someone who's on vacation for a couple of weeks of July, I have a question about the ability to vote if we were to do a joint town vote remotely. I know that's a concern. People have vacations booked. I have vacation booked literally for a lot of the month, but what are the options for remote voting? Should we do a joint town meeting?
Yeah, my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, town officials. The question is it possible to get involved in a remote vote during a joint town meeting? My understanding is no, it's strictly in person for those who are registered voters who do show up. Absolutely.
There is something out there for remote town meeting, but it's representative town meeting only that can have it by state law. So in case she's getting that confused, we just can't do it because it's going to be open.
Yeah, so because it's a completely open meeting and it's not a representative forum type meeting, that's not available.
Correct.
But that's a good question. And coming back to some of the points about do it as quick as possible. While I agree with that, in general, these are some of the points that I think we have to get resolved and clarified. So that's why we need a little bit of time.
It's not just about being available. It's again about families already having booked travel, rented houses,
Sure.
traveling around for the first time in a year and a half, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, face it, any date that you come up with in either July or August is going to be super tough with a certain percentage of our population. Okay. Thank you, Stacy. We also have Elizabeth Brennan. Are you there, Elizabeth?
I am. We're right in the middle of having a major thunderstorm. I'm not sure if this is rolling through at Nipmuc yet, but we just got it with a couple of big loud booms.
All right, something to look forward to.
I'll make it quick. I actually wrote in a couple of questions and I'm not sure why. And while I understand you're looking at logical reasoning for, waiting another week to determine when the next time we all come together as a vote, I think what is making Mendon residents determine no is that there isn't a full strong force on anything we have to do. They think, okay, eventually we'll just let this go as long as it has to go and everybody will say no. As you said, the budget, the 112 budget is taking care of things. Nobody even understands about the 112 budget unless you know school. My other concern is waiting so long is that we are going to lose people. Not only are we going to lose amazing professionals, maybe they'll stay in district, but this is how we're treating them. We're waiting till the last possible minute to let them know that their jobs are important to us. So while you take another week to worry about what your constituents have to say and where they go and what they want to do, those of us that are all in are all in. We would rather have you make the decision this evening to say, hey, yes, it's August 16th. We'll let people know about voting remotely, which I think Stacy has an excellent point with. I think we should be able to vote remotely. We could vote nationally for a president remotely. Why can't we do this? And I know there's laws about when we can do and what we have to do. We have to have this meeting. It has to be done. By law, it says it has to be done. So I'm not sure why the easiest part of this whole decision needs to wait another week to happen. I've been on Facebook. I'm one of those people on Facebook. I don't agree with people that voted no. I have a lot of questions about why we're here again, voting for another override. And my understanding is there might be another override next year. What can I do as a parent to avoid having this situation happen over and over and over again? I'm a professional in a school. I understand what it's like to be hanging on by a string for a job. I'm also a parent in this district, knowing that some of the most amazing professionals are going to be let go because we can't pass this budget. So I guess there are a couple of questions in there, a lot of statements, a lot of opinions. I just would like to know that personally, by the end of tonight, as a voting person in this town, in Mendon, that we have a date and we have a step forward. That's all. And I'd like somebody to comment on that and not just let it get pushed to the side.
I think part of the reason is, I'm going to go back to you because you put it so eloquently before, but some of the logistical questions about setting up a date in terms of finding facilities that are appropriate to hold a town.
Yeah, I mean, I understand your urgency. I understand and respect the energy behind it. I truly do, but I also know that I think we have to take the right steps here in the right way to make sure that we set it up in the right timing. And we can say, okay, we're gonna have it as soon as possible. We may find out that logistically we can't make it happen until, at the earliest, to your point, like mid-August. So I'd rather get our ducks in a row around understanding the pros and cons and also what we're able to do and how long it's going to take us to do it, by next week. I think spending a little bit of time right now to get all those components and all that information together will allow us to make a smart decision about when to put it out there.
So I would just add that as this meeting's been going on, Elizabeth, my phone is lighting up like a Christmas tree to have the meeting like ASAP, like as soon as possible. So we definitely hear that point of view, and that will definitely be in our considerations. So I would say we'll try to do this with all possible speed. And that wasn't known before tonight. And I think it's valuable feedback that you've given us. So thank you very much.
Well, I think it's why it's really important that we have these open community comments, because again, as we've said several times, we're 23 hours into knowing that this was where we were going. So we just need the opportunity to figure out what can work, and certainly these community comments towards sooner rather than later will have some influence on that decision. But I do agree with Phil that we need some time to figure out logistically how and when this can happen. I agree that we want to hold on to as much of our valuable staff as we can, and if we can get something organized sooner, I think that we hear you all, we hear the comments. And we will do our best to make that happen.
Okay, we've got another person.
Can you actually add another question about what's the process we have to go through for posting a warrant? Just from the standpoint of involvement of the select boards of both towns and the involvement of the whole moderator component for the law. Because I'm partially what I'm looking for is, just looking at when next Board of Selectmen meetings are in both towns. It don't look like they're occurring at least for a couple of weeks. So does that, what does that do to our time? Or maybe we don't have to worry about them, but I think we do, based on what the law says and what's there. There's a role they play.
I don't know exactly what the law says, but my understanding is that it's this group that picks the moderator. Is that correct?
No, I don't know.
No, it's the Board of Selectmen, according to the law. Mm-hmm.
They're supposed to propose. They're supposed to make a proposal of the moderator, and then I believe it's our job to then select who it is. But they're supposed to make a proposal.
Upton's, I believe Upton's, I know the selectmen next time they meet in Upton.
The boards of selectmen of the member municipalities in a joint meeting shall by majority vote of those appoint a town moderator or any person acceptable.
So they have to meet jointly then.
That's what it says. We have to figure out, do we need to do that? Do we not need to do that? Is there another way to facilitate that over these coming weeks?
See, and that also implies that we have to make the decision to have a meeting for them to invoke the joint town or the joint selectmen.
Yeah.
So then I go back to my suggestion for a motion. I go back to my
It looks like
suggestion.
both, but it looks like they won't be able to have a joint meeting for at least 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
whether we make a motion today or we make it in a week, I don't think it makes a difference. The next Upton Selectmen meeting is not until the middle of July.
I'm gonna just throw a question out there because we may be making some assumptions. Can the meeting be posted with the 2 weeks notice and not necessarily know who the moderator will be yet?
Yeah, that's not.
We don't know the answer to that question. I think that's why we need action. We've got about 3 or 4 questions that we need to be able to have answered by.
Because again, I didn't know that the joint boards have to make recommendations to you guys and then you choose. But it doesn't say that specifically that you can't get the meeting date set up. So in a way, that's a time saver, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Exactly right. Yes.
I think, Sean, you bring up a really good point, right? Is there, I think a lot of us, we're all volunteers, and a lot of us are new to this, right? Is there a motion that should be made tonight to at least be able to officially say that, you know, or excuse me, to officially take a vote, are we going to joint town meeting? And that allows us to then at least kick off the communications to the appropriate boards within towns, et cetera.
Right. Otherwise, I think we'll get a delay from those boards that haven't voted.
I mean, we're sitting here on a special meeting tonight. I assume the selectmen have special meetings as well when that's come up. I guess I wonder if you do want to get that one.
I mean, maybe it makes sense to make a motion and take a vote on the fact that we are all in agreement that we're gonna have a joint town meeting with a date TBD to what you said.
So I will resubmit the motion.
So moved.
Just say it slowly so that Kelly can get it down.
Wait, so moved?
So, motion,
Motion for a joint town meeting for a date to be determined as soon as possible. Maybe we say by next week's school committee meeting, which is
Wednesday, the 7th.
Wednesday the 7th. To be determined by Wednesday the 7th.
so motion for a joint town meeting with the date to be determined at the school committee meeting on July 7th.
Yes, that's correct.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Sean Nicholson, aye.
Dorothy Scally, aye. Carrie Lawrence, aye.
Both is all right.
Eric Brown, aye.
Vicky Ledwixon, aye.
And motion passes. Any further community comments?
There is one here from Ed Ray. Are you there, Ed?
Yes, can you hear me?
Hi, Ed.
Hi, just a general comment about just communicating out the importance of this meeting. Are there other ways that we can actually communicate out to the general community on, what the importance of this meeting is, and what's at stake here? Could we use, similar mechanisms that we've used for, snow days? So,
yes, we can. If it is informational in nature, it's fine. If it is promoting a specific position, it is not okay.
Sure, absolutely.
That makes sense. As long as it's just factual information and not advocating a position, yes or no, it's perfectly fine, Ed.
Okay, so I would advocate for that, just so more people are aware of, what's needed here.
Good point.
Thanks, Ed.
Thanks.
I'm going to try Andy McFarlane again, but he's not popping up. Yeah. I don't think there's any more public commentary.
Just make one comment though, just looking at the numbers, we had close to 100 people dialing in tonight. And it's the most I've seen in a long time, right? It's a tough situation. I know that's why a lot of people are on, but I think the commentary, the feedback that we've gotten from the dozen folks who spoke up is actually very, very helpful. We're a board here to represent the town, the people, and it's this commentary that actually adds a lot of value.
Agreed. I think we're walking into unfamiliar territory. A lot of us may have come with certain assumptions as to what might work better for the community versus other things, and certainly having this live back and forth communication is helpful in terms of setting our agendas moving forward. So I agree. Thank you guys very much for participating.
Thank you for your effort for help, Suki.
Sean will find you.
That's something
All
about
right.
me. I couldn't hear.
No, it's about Suki and her offer to
Good.
help.
Yeah, oh yeah, she was good.
Yeah.
Okay, with no further comments, we'll move on to other matters not anticipated by the committee within 48 hours of posted meeting. Hearing none, we'll move to roll call to executive session pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A, exemption number 3 to discuss strategy with respect to the negotiations with the Regional Teachers Association, because doing so in open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the committee. The committee will not return to open session.
Second. Sean Nicholson, aye.
Otis Elliott, Carrie Lawrence, aye.
What was that, aye?
Eric Brown, aye.
Vicki Leverton, aye.
And we are adjourned at 8:02 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
This is my time to leave, right?